and welcome to Out on a Limb podcast, where we are honoring the promise that we made at the beginning of the year to bring you exciting, amazing guests this year. We have the lovely Blossom Goodchild with us, and we are so honored that she got up this morning because it's tomorrow morning, her time, all the way over in Australia to join us. And we thank you so very much, Blossom. And for those who aren't familiar with your work, she is a direct voice channeler, an author, and a professional actress, believe it or not. She's been channeling, White Cloud, a Native American Indian being or energy, for 23 years, actually. And I was figuring out the Federation of Light came on board also not too long after that in 2005. So that would be 19 years or so. So we're excited to hear about how that sort of transpired. Were you always what we would call awake? First of all, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me on. My dog has just started to bark. So I'm hoping he's going to he's seen something out the window. I've pulled the blind down, but he's seen something. So I'm hoping he will remain good. Thank you so much. Yes. When I was younger, I had no idea at all. I was brought up as a Catholic and, no idea. And it wasn't till I got around sort of 17 or 18 and I became interested in spiritual stuff, but never thought I would be doing what I am doing now at all. And then for me, it happened that when I was around 17 or 18, I started having fits. And nobody could find out what they were. And they were intermittent for 17 years. So over the years, now and then, I would just literally conk out on the floor and they would last for about 4 or 5 weeks at a time, 2 or 3 times a day. Nobody could find out at all. I saw specialists, I had ECGs, everything. And they were very, they interfered with my life greatly. And then literally in the blink of an eye, I'd be back on board type of thing. I'd be fine for a good few months. And then I could just feel it beginning to happen. And when I was in those 3 or 4 weeks, I used to feel like I was just not on the planet. That's the only way I knew to describe it. And we tried to find out what it was. Nobody could. I was interested in the spiritualist movement. And I met a lady, very talented clairvoyant, who I'd started going to spiritualist church and things, earlier on and things like that, I joined a group. And so I was aware of spiritual stuff and really interested in it. But I met this lady and I'd been doing the smallest bit of healing, like 3 times a year or something. and I felt this Indian behind me and I asked his name and I got White Cloud. And that's literally all I knew. And I thought, it's amazing. I didn't realize everybody was their own healer and all that at that time. Anyway, this lady was staying with us through different circumstances. And I was having a space of these fits at the time. And I was, it was really interfering with my life. And she said to me, Blossom, I've got this Indian here with me. And he's asking if you will get a pen and paper. And he wants to speak to you. And because that stuff wasn't mind-blowing to me. So I was like, well, all right. And the minute we started, I just said, hello, I believe you want we made contact. And he wrote and said that we had agreed to do this many moons ago. And if I was still up for it, he would like to speak through me. And he said, to arrange a meeting and who was to be there and all that. And from that day of writing in that book, which was 25 years ago, I've never had a fit since. They just went away the minute we made contact. And he said that, in consequent meetings and things, that the reason that was happening to me was because they had to rewire my body to do what I do, because it's not just White Cloud that I can bring through. I can bring through anybody. You must know, Will. It's the same sort of thing, it's, and obviously I have White Cloud as my gatekeeper, etc., etc. So that's how I sort of got into, I think that's the quickest version I've ever told.
Beautiful.
That was brilliant.
Very succinct. I love that. You might have been practicing on that.
Yeah, right.
So that's how I got with them. And then with the Federation of Light, I went for a reading, long time ago. And this lady said to me that I was going to start channeling another, didn't say who, but said it was going to be very different, because with White Cloud, he came through and always comes through and speaks through me. Whereas she said, you're being asked to sit down at your computer and contact will be made. So that's, and so I literally did the next day. And at first, it was, I didn't know who it was really. And then it sort of was the I am, I think. And then as it went on, it sort of progressed into the Federation of Light, who I'd never heard of at that time. I didn't know about the Galactic and all that sort of stuff at all, that, all those years ago. I was like, good Lord. So that's how I sort of started working with them. And I was told that was going to go into a book, which was their first book, which was called The Bridge. So that's how I sort of got working with them. And here I am today, 25 years later, and their conversations, go out all over the world. Nobody could be more surprised than myself. I didn't see it coming, psychic as I am.
Probably a good thing that we don't see it coming, or we might be like, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I completely understand. Yeah, you just don't, if I had to sit here and somebody asked me, would you see yourself where you are, 5 years ago or whatever? No.
Yeah, that's right. I always say I wasn't sitting at school thinking, oh, when I grow up, I want to bring a dead Native American Indian
right
through me, So it was just, obviously it was meant to be.
So are you originally from Australia, or you moved to Australia? Okay.
Moved to Australia 25 years ago.
And originally from?
England.
Okay.
Can you not tell, Will?
Well, I was trying to point where in the region.
South, but I lived up north my mother lived up north for a while, but mainly south of England. Yeah. And so I came over with my family. Yeah. It was my 24th year now.
Yeah, because I bring up the Spiritualist Church, and I was wondering how that takes effect, if at all, even in Australia, because I know in England and all that, it's pretty prominent, but Australia, I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, Australia, I've been to one in Australia years ago, and that, whereas in England, it's very prominent. There's a very different scene over there, really, with the churches. Yeah.
Oh, I'm dying to ask you, back then when you were channeling and all this was starting to happen, was Goody in the picture already? And when he arrived, if that wasn't at that point, how did he feel about all of this? Did it take him some time to get used to this?
Goody was in the picture before I began, but not into any of this. He was like his football and all that kind of thing. But he did hurt his ankle once playing football. And I said, perhaps I could do a little bit of healing on it. And he was like, all right then. And his ankle got better. So he said, well, I don't know, whatever it was you did, it was, but he wasn't into it at all. But then he had, I won't go into all that because it's too long, but he had something happen to him to do with my grandmother, my step grandmother, who he was seeing. And we thought she was dying at the time. And I expected in the morning to get a call to say she died, because he was seeing her on a hospital bed. And this was all mind-blowing for him. And anyway, she was alive and well for the next however many years. But we found out she was sort of preparing herself to go. So from that moment, he suddenly had 1,000 questions to ask. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, Goody just woke up like that. He was an old shaman from old. And, he was just, and Goody was not somebody, he doesn't follow anybody's channelings. I had to make him read mine,
Yeah.
I had to say, look, you're my husband. There's thousands all over the world that read mine. What, you don't read it? And he did read mine, but he was just there as completely, he used to say he was here to protect me and look after me. So he was just there, never anything at all that would stress me to do with any of this. He was just my calming person there. He was just he was just there as and just accepted everything. He didn't go, God, you're crazy or anything. He was just so chilled with it all.
That's really good though, that you grew together parallel, because a lot of times women
People go that way, don't they?
Yes, right. And within the church, for example, a lot of Christian women will feel like they need to take the kids to church, and the husband, it just starts to
Yeah. No, he was really good. He was always so supportive of me, always. So, it was great. It was great. And he was there for the very first meeting that we did when White Cloud said, could you get this together? He was there for that meeting. And, and I sort of took some deep breaths and everything. And then 25 years ago, I mean, I cannot tell you how slowly White Cloud spoke and how deep his voice was. It's like, really was so different from now, and I couldn't move, he couldn't open the eyes. It really took a long time for us to understand each other, as I'm sure well, when you don't have a teacher, do you?
No.
It's just you. So you learn to work together, and when everybody had gone, we sat on the sofa, had a cup of tea and started watching telly. It was just so, well, there we go then.
Very normal.
It was a weird thing. Yeah, it was. And yet it wasn't normal at all. It was a beginning of so much, but it just was like, oh, well, obviously just meant to be, I guess,
right.
That it felt so normal type thing. Yeah.
You had a question?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of our viewership, there are people who they haven't quite stepped into, or they're just stepping into like their awakening, maybe their practice, what they're going to be doing. And so what's interesting is like here, you're someone, everyone's told someday you'll be in front of a crowd talking to all these people, and everyone's like, oh my God, I can't imagine doing that. But here you're someone who has actually done that. And was there a period of time where, you wanted to like stay in the closet with it and not share it with everybody, and the fear of what people were going to say and so forth? Or was it always just like, did it just move into something that was supernatural for you?
Supernatural.
Right, I know. I got that too. I was like, where did that come from? Good one.
No pun intended.
Very good. It's very difficult because being brought up on the stage, my parents were in the theatre. That's all I've ever wanted to do. So my performance of being on stage is I was used to audiences, if you like, but a completely different switch around to be me and talking to people, because I am. That I found more daunting than anything, because I'm not, you see people, I don't know, really, scientific people, who have all this stuff going on, and they can, and they've got whiteboards, and they know this and they know that date and all that. Nothing. I know nothing. And I was told never to prepare anything, which is good in one way, because I don't have to spend hours preparing anything, but I just have to allow it, whatever I'm going to say, just to come through at the time. And I found that to begin with really quite scary, because you just got to trust so much, and I'm not putting myself down, but I don't consider myself to be of high intelligence. I'm just a normal person, that has a good laugh and all that kind of thing. Right. So I was like, what are people going to find interesting about what I've got to say, type of thing. But then as time went on, it just always seemed, I just had to trust, and it just always seemed to go well. And I realized that, what I actually have to say about myself, about my life, about how life is for me and what's going on within it, that's what people seem to find interesting, because it's the same going on for them. Yeah. So it's not like I'm trying to teach. I'm not a teacher in any way. I'm just a sharer, I would say, who has been given this gift for them to, it's very good when I can do my talk, and then I can bring the Indian in, as my finale, as the guest star, So I have that up my sleeve type of thing, which is, and it just all sort of works that way, it's just sort of fallen into place that way.
Well, Blossom, that's one of the reasons you are so popular, is because you're so real. You don't mind being vulnerable. You don't mind laughing at yourself. And you are just going through this life like the rest of us, trying to make it, trying to figure things out. And when you channel, and the way that you speak to the Federation, for example, and we can sense your struggle also, and it's the struggle that we have. And so you ask the questions that we want to know, and we feel that in you, that you're just trying to sort this out too. And so it makes it very real, and we really appreciate that. And I think that's part of your draw, frankly.
Thank you. Well, it wasn't. I don't get the whole ego thing really at all with people. If you can't be yourself, then you got it wrong somewhere along the line, haven't you? And of course, I mean, I had an email. I don't get these very often at all anymore, but I had the most awful email sent to me the other day going, "You bitch, you can shove it up." Just really awful, saying all you do is ask for money, which I've never done, just out of the blue. Horrible email, and like years ago that would have sent me into a oh God. Now I just sent her back saying, "What on earth is the matter with you? I'm sending you lots of love, because why would you dream of sending me such a spiteful email?" Well, she sent back saying, I do apologize about the words, but she was a bit funny, but that kind of thing just doesn't bother me. It's water off a duck's back to me, and I just think how sad that people want to behave that way. But it doesn't make me feel like I'm doing something wrong or anything like that, because you can only be yourself. I can't be anybody else, right. Type of thing. And I guess I guess you guys the same thing. Being on camera like this, you get used to that as well, and how to perform, if you like, or how to conduct yourself in that way, so you just have to, I don't so much anymore I was a bit nervous, I was like all the time before it came. I get the flutters and all that kind of thing, so I think it would be odd if I didn't. But at the same time, I've learned that in all things I just consider people as friends. So I pretend I'm talking to people I've known for a long time, and then you haven't got that sort of thing of because I used to think what if people ask me a question and I simply can't answer it? And I had that thing, what if people ask White Cloud a question and he can't answer it? That's more freaky than, exactly. Because do you feel then, Will, do you feel like, if White Cloud or, your collective couldn't answer the question, I think, well, I'm going to be discovered as a fraud.
Exactly.
This is very true.
100%. 100%. I can't tell you how many times coming out of a session, and this is early on. Now I don't do it as much, but I'll instantly look over at Allison and say, "All right, so how was that? Give me the download. I mean, did everything come out right? Did the client, all that stuff?" Because the human mind wants to do that whole mess and screw you up and just go, that whole trust thing. And
and not only that, but he's completely out. He doesn't remember anything that was said at all. So he doesn't know, what he said to the audience. So he looks at the audience. Are they crying? Are they laughing? Are they happy?
But you see, I feel, Will, for me, I often think, God, that must be so nice to do that, because you're not in charge.
Right.
You're not. Whereas for me, I'm still in there.
Oh, so you are conscious channeling.
You're absolutely fully aware. And I know a split second before he speaks, a split second, not even that, what he's going to say. And so sometimes my mind might go, "Do you really want to say that?" And then that will
oh my gosh.
And so I don't like being in there. I'd rather be like you, where I can just disappear, come back and think, "Oh, good, it's all over." Because
I'm so glad you said that, because these guys have been helping me to channel, and now I'm actually channeling, and I've got my crew and stuff, and conscious channeling. And so, I'm always trying to sit back as far as I can. And I just wish I would just kind of disappear. And sometimes I'm like, "Oh, no, you're not going to say that. No, please don't." And it comes out of my mouth, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh dear God,"
Well, it's similar to doing psychic work or mediumship work when a spirit comes in and wants to speak through you or give you that information. There's many times they're going to give you that information the way they want you to say it. And up here, this little nugget up here just says, I'm not going to say that. You know?
And then with that, you know that by questioning it, you're interfering with the link and the energy.
Yep.
You know, there's so much. But like now, I think, you know, after being an old hat at it, you know, it doesn't bother me any. Now we work so well. I know him so well. He knows me so well. You know, before anything I do, you know, he says, "Have I ever let you down, Blossom?" And I go, "No." And he says, "Have you ever let me down?" And I go, "No." And he goes, "Well, what are you worried about?" You know, type of thing. And it is just that trust, isn't it, really? That, you know, but probably like you, after every session, I'm like, good. Yeah. It all went all right. You know?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I wanted to bring up, you mentioned that when White Cloud first came through, he came through in a very, you mentioned a very deep voice. So it's very similar experience. My very first connection was Enoch, and that I can't reach the octave that voice came through. It was, and when I listened to that and you know, from that very first hypnosis session, it is just, it vibrates in a way that, you know, that connection just dropped in. It is solid. It is there. And it just, that's what's lasted all, you know, throughout these, you know, 5-7 years that I've been doing it. So, yeah.
So with I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go.
With the Federation, you do bring them through with voice on occasion, but mostly it's channeled writing at your computer. Tell us how that whole process works with the beautiful Joe Pena, who many of us now, I mean, it's synonymous with the Federation, right? You couldn't even imagine a more perfect voice at this point. How does that work in terms of the coordination between you? Because he's in the States too, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating. Joe interviewed me. He's had his own podcast. I think he's still got it, called Enlighten Me. And he interviewed me years and years and years ago. And because for him, he found it so fascinating that I was a female and this male voice would come through. And so he wrote to me a while afterwards and said that he'd started recording the channelings so he could listen to them before he went to sleep. So I said, "Oh, could you send me one?" Which he did. And I heard his voice. I was like, "Oh my God." You know, so I was like, "Would you like to put these online?" type of thing. So he said, "Sure." So originally, in the first few, it was like he'd say, "Blossom, hello there, da-da-da-da-da. Federation of Light, da-da-da-da-da. Blossom." And he read the whole thing. And then, you know, people started saying, why don't you read yourself, Blossom? and I hadn't originally wanted to be honest, because I find I find it really, it's better now, but in the early days, and I don't want to listen back, it was really difficult to speak naturally of something that you said in your mind, and then to say it out loud, you know, and as an actress, I was like, "Oh God, this sounds terrible," you know. So anyway, so I said, okay, so what I do, so I connect up on the computer and have this telepathic conversation, and I literally write it down as it's happening. It's, you know, it's like that. And then, and I'm aware of what they're saying, what I'm saying, but when I read it back, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, you know, it becomes a lot more, I understand it a lot more. And then what I do is I then record my bit and I send it to Joe, and he records the Federation bit, and then he mixes the two and puts it together and puts it online. I mean, and I've never met him. We've only ever spoken on Zoom and all that kind of thing. And it's fantastic. I mean, all the things that happen, for me, I just have to think I've got to be doing something right, because all these amazing people come in my life to help me, you know, like Joe. And Joe, I do these Tribe of Light calls once a month now, where people, like, you know, people can zoom in, and right. Joe arranges it all, you know, and I've got all these translators that translate them into different languages. Oh my God! All out of love. I don't pay, you know, I don't get paid type thing. It's amazing how the universe has brought all these people to help. You know, my website lady, she updates it all for nothing, just to help. You know, there's a chap in England who, if I've got anything wrong with my internet and website, he'll get onto it straight. You know, it's just fantastic, the help you have. And it does help me recognize well, then you're bringing through truth, Blossom. Otherwise, this would, not that I think I'm not, but, you just doubt now and then you're like, not so much anymore, but it just helps me to understand that this kind of stuff wouldn't be going on if it wasn't coming from a good place type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't think you would be human if you weren't doubting it from time to time. I mean, it's just every once in a while, I just had a breakdown last week. Was it last week or so? And where I was just like, why am I doing all of this if it's not like rolling smoothly? Why? And it's just, you just have those moments. And then the very next client I had, we were on a Zoom call and she said, I just want to take a moment to thank you. And then she went on for like 5 minutes telling me all the ways I had affected her life and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was like, we do kind of need that outside. It just helped get me back in alignment. And, it's not like I'm ever none of us could choose to walk away, right? It's not like you were ever going to sit there and go, yeah, I'm done. You can't.
Oh, yes, I have.
And I want to get into that in just a minute.
Oh, I didn't know.
Because one of the things we like to share are whether we've had a dark night of the soul. Yes. And you didn't really have it during your awakening per se, but you had a dark night of the soul during this channeling process. And it was quite traumatic. And what we want to try to help our audience with is being able to eventually bounce back. How do we develop resilience? How do we stay in a heart open space when these things happen? So give us your tip. You don't have to go through the whole thing if you don't want to. I know you.
No, I don't know which dark night of the soul you're talking about. I've had so many. But I don't know. I just think in life, whatever we are, whether we're channelers or, hairdressers, whatever we've chosen to do or we find ourselves doing, we're going to have our ups and downs. We just are. And, so for me, quite a bit of my stuff has been more public than others, or what have you. And that's just the way it is. But I just think you just have to know that it might be like this tomorrow and the next day and the next day, but it won't be like this forever. Especially, I've learned, because I was called a manic depressive when I was younger. I was a really depressed teenager and all that because I found the world such a mess, and I was like, what is this all about? I really was always depressed. And then I sort of found out about positive thinking and the law of attraction and all that. And I, so for 40 odd years, I've been into all that. And that definitely has changed my life because you have to put the effort in to change your thought patterns around and to make your life what it is. And I have I've just been on a cruise, right? Around the Caribbean to Antigua, it's nothing like where I live. I live in a better place than all those places, which I created for myself out of my choices and my attitude towards everything. And, people can say, well, it's all right for you, Blossom. But it is all right for me because I've made it happen for me. And I think that's like with everybody, you can't sit around and moan about the state of your life if you're not prepared to change your attitude towards whatever is happening. And that isn't always easy. And we are allowed to go into a slump, not saying that, but at the same time, you have to just think, well, how long is this going to serve me for, this slump? And like, now I've had enough of it. Now start putting yourself together. And, the easiest way for me always is to think, right, okay, look around, what are you grateful for? My whole, to me, that is the answer. Find the gratitude in how something so small, something so big, whatever. I just find to start going, okay, and be grateful for things. It changes your energy back. And then you get back on board to be positive all the time and have it, I do find I'm quite unusual to a lot of people because of my attitude. They go, but Blossom, and I go, no, but if you look at it like this, or whatever it might be, and they're like, oh God, she's a bit odd. But it's just, you just got to keep going with that attitude of gratitude and that positive thinking, I reckon, and know that it is up to you. I think That is the big thing. When I first found out, I was reading the Conversations with God books years ago. Far out. I was like, what? I can't blame anybody. I've got to take this on board myself. I was so depressed for ages because I thought, God, can't I blame God then or anything? It was like, no, this is all. And I found that a real wake up call. It really was that you are in charge of your
Right. Taking responsibility. Taking responsibility.
Yeah.
We want to, everything in life requires us to abdicate our authority, to give it away to the government or to our pastor or our friends. Or the hardest thing to do is to take responsibility for your life and your happiness. But the one dark night of the soul that I'm thinking about, because when you're in the public eye, like you are, and I think there was a time when the Federation was giving you some things that were going to happen, and they didn't happen on that day. And so it
2008. Are you talking about 2008?
It was devastating because you had put this out, you had trusted, you surrendered and put it out there, and you're in the public. So it's not like you can just wake up and nobody remembers. Everybody remembered, right? And so if I recall, it took you, I don't know, a week or more, maybe even more, to finally decide that you were going to continue on. So what was it that finally said, I can't just give this all up no matter how?
I mean, it was, for those who don't know, it's on my website. There is a thing called Eyes to the Skies on my website, so people can find the story there should they need to. But I was like, I can't even walk out my bedroom, let alone go online ever again. It was so humiliating, blah, 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 blah. But then, and I didn't want to know anything because it made me question White Cloud. It made me question my entire life type of thing. And then about 2 weeks later, I got woken up in the night and I thought, oh, hello. So I sort of got on my computer and I was like, what do you want to say? What do you want to say? I just didn't know what to think at all. And they sort of explained what had happened, this, that, and the other. But at the same time, I received thousands of emails, some beautiful, saying they'd seen ships on that, some beautiful, beautiful emails, and some horrendous. I mean, like people in Brazil were holding ceremonies to crucify my soul. It was just awful, the whole thing. But then, and so I went into my little healing room and I just don't know what to do. And I closed my eyes and I said, and I don't often ask for a sign, but I said to White Cloud, I need something. I just need something to help me understand this. And I saw a picture of a rose, which is funny because that's what I've just realized. That's what Goody and I have since he's passed. But I saw a picture of a rose and I was like, okay, you get a rose to me by Monday. I'll give you 3 days. It was Friday. And then I'll know, and I'll know by the energy of it that it's okay to carry on and it is truth because that was my big thing. Am I channeling truth or am I just, this is all a joke type of thing? And anyway, so I didn't tell anybody, didn't think anything more about it. And then on the Monday evening, about 4:00, the doorbell went and a dozen red roses were delivered to me with this huge ostrich feather. And it was a card. And White Cloud always used to say, walk boldly in the light and the love. And this card said, walk boldly in the light and the love. And it was from love, a petal from the same rose or something. It was such a long time, I can't remember. And I suddenly looked and I didn't know who this person was or anything. And I just burst into tears. And I was like, I'll never question. I have questioned since, but at the time I was like, I'll never question again. And then I was doing a podcast the next day. And this lady happened to hear me tell this story. And she was a lady that had sent me these flowers. And she wrote to me and said, I sent them. And I wrote back and said, what made you do that? And she said, all weekend, I just got this. And she bought my books and things, but I didn't know who she was. But she said, I just got this nagging thing that I needed to send you some roses. And I said, but a dozen. And she said, well, actually, yes. The order was a bit bigger than I thought it was going to be, but it was, and it was, to me, it's like, I could not have got stronger confirmation. It was White Cloud's words, they were roses. And so I just thought, right, guys, right, thank you. And I just got back on board again, you know, which in a way, it was whatever that was all about. You know, there's many reasons about all that. That got me on the world map. So that got the Federation and White Cloud on the world map. Not saying that was a sneaky way to do it at all, you know, but it's just the way things worked out, that's how my name sort of became more known because of that incident, you know. And then people thought, oh, this is interesting, they're talking about love, not spaceships, da 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 da. So they sort of woke up on that side of things.
But isn't that phenomenal how even using this horrific, devastating event, but it got their name out and got exposure to their words to a greater percentage of the world. And so it just goes to show you that whenever anything happens to you, withhold judgment to the best of your ability. Don't judge it negatively or bad, because it has greater purpose, most likely, right?
That's absolutely right, Alison. Yeah, that you don't know the reasoning behind so many things, and that's another thing, isn't it? You just have to trust that there is one, because you might never find it out. You know, so you know you do. I think life is a big trusting thing.
Good point.
Just, you know, that whole thing of them saying we're the strongest of the strong and we're here for all this. If we don't trust that, why are we bothering? Because for me, I have to trust that what they're saying and that we are the strongest people. You know, there's many up there that wanted to be down here at this time, but they weren't strong enough within themselves to withstand all that we've got to go through and more that we've got to go through now. And so if I trust that is as truth, then we have to be really enlightened beings to have been chosen to come down here and get through this. So if we trust that, then that in ourselves makes us feel our light from elsewhere, to go, right, well, I'm not just this human being, I'm obviously one of the stronger ones, so keep your shit together, Blossom, because you got chosen, so don't moan, just get on with it and shine that light. That's the whole thing. Just keep it doesn't matter it does, but what's going on around it, just shine that light. That's why you got chosen, because your light is strong enough to be here. And I think the more people can understand that's why they're here, that's all they've got to do, smile and laugh. I think that's such a divine plan, isn't it? What a divine plan. Smile and laugh your way through life, no matter what's going on, because then you're doing what you came here to do by changing the vibration.
Exactly. And I like the rose. And you alluded to this story because today we are taping this on Eclipse Day, April 8th, and you slept through the eclipse because we were experiencing it a few hours ago.
Yes.
But the YouTube recording that just dropped this weekend was talking about a beautiful rose story between you and your hubby.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to share it again, or the viewers can go and listen to that, but it's the one that
it's very quick. But what I didn't put in that channeling was also Goody, you know, when we knew he wasn't going to remain on the planet, we said let's have a code, because I said, I don't want to be thinking, is it you, isn't you? If you're going to come through to me, I want, just let's have no mucking about. So we said, he had a little rose tattooed on his back. So we said, let's, have the rose. But not only the story, which I will tell, but he died about 2:45 a.m. on the Sunday morning. And about 3-4 hours later, my sister, who was with me, got a text from a lady she knows who does Reiki and things up north. She didn't know me and Goody very well, but she texted my sister saying, I dreamt about you last night, Jill. And she said, but that's not why I'm texting. For some reason, please, could you tell Blossom, could you give her the word rose? And that was 4 hours after he'd passed. And I was like, God, good job, Goody. It was so like, he just was like, I've made it, Bloss. It was just amazing. And then the same thing the next day of having to look for some paperwork, and Goody's desk in the garage, it was like a bomb site. It had hammers, nails, papers, tax thing. It was just a mess. And we had to look for this particular thing. And we lifted up these papers, and there was this book called The Rose Annual, which I'd never, ever seen in my life, or just a small book. And I said, so what's this? And I said, I've never seen it in my life. Opened it up, and the title was A Rose from Another World. And the first sentence said, my wife, who's a spiritual healer, we were going, oh my God. So I've got a little dedicated shelf, on a bookshelf for Goody. And that book, remains there, because it was just, I was like, good man, good man to do all that, is when everything must be so new to you,
Right.
and all that kind of stuff, and you must be very sort of, where am I and what's going on, to be able to sort of make that happen. And I've had so many things from Goody, to let me know he's around and everything. So I'm very blessed.
I know
We need a sign.
We're going to put a game plan together here shortly, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I loved how the Federation said, though, that he needed some assistance. So the elders were helping him to
Yes.
all of that.
Yes. And also it was lovely, because we knew that White Cloud would be with Goody when he passed. We knew that. And before, well, I don't think I've ever sort of said this online before, but the morning, on the Saturday morning, when it was, just apparent there was not going to be much longer, he was in the hospital bed in our house. And I just said to his daughter and my sister were there, and I just said, change of plan. It was about 6 a.m. And I just started saging everywhere. And I said, we've really got to bring it down. And I knew White Cloud wanted to come in. So White Cloud went and put his hands behind Goody's head and just started speaking in his native tongue. And he was sort of, it was as if he was getting his going in and getting his soul, sort of thing, and doing this and just doing all this stuff. And it was beautiful. And the minute he stopped, when White Cloud finished, Goody went into that awful noise, the death rattle, which and that went on. He literally went on for about 17 hours. It was, it was, but at the same time, I thought he'd gone. Not fully, but White Cloud had come in and released most of his soul. And it was like I saw, as if I'm remembering this right, that he came and had a horse waiting, because Goody loves horses, and had a horse waiting for him. So it was like, as a White Cloud came on his horse with the spare horse, Goody got on it, and off they went, type of thing. I'm so blessed to have had that, and that's why it's nice to share, because so other people can know that they don't just go and that's it. That they're always so close to us, and you have to be open enough to receive it, though, not question it, not go, who is that, Fred, or, whatever. You just have to know that, because you feel it in your heart,
Right. Now, I understand that a lot of times our grief will prevent the messages from coming in. And so I wonder, because some of the messages came through other people for you, do you think that it needed to happen that way? Or were you able to hear from Goody yourself?
Yes. I about I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks, I don't know, after he'd passed, I couldn't sleep, went for a really early walk on the beach, and I came back and got back into bed. It was about 6:30, 7 a.m, and I fell back to sleep, I thought, and Goody walked in the bedroom, and I just went mad. I went mad. I was like, what are you doing here? You're dead. You can't just turn back up. You can't. I was furious, because I said, I thought you were dead. Everybody thinks you're dead. How come you're back? And he was just beaming. And he stood over by the side of it. I've never, ever in my life seen him so happy, ever. And he just beamed, and he leant over, and his face came this close. I thought, good Lord, he's going to give me a kiss. And I never thought I'd get a kiss from Goody again. And it came, I thought, good Lord, he's going to kiss me. And that's that. And then I woke up a bit later, and I was looking around the room, and I suddenly went, oh my God. And I know without question, he visited me. And the lovely thing was that I've never seen him so happy. So although I was, a dreadful time grieving and this, that, and the other, it was so lovely to know that he was so happy, you know, and that was like over 2 years ago now. And I just think, why, if you could do it that once, why can't you do that now? You know, why? I know it would happen, it will happen again, hopefully. But why does it have to say, you know, surely if you could do it, then you can do it now. You've learned how to do that or whatever. But no, and obviously that's not meant to be, you know, that's not meant to be. But yeah, I have great connection with him now, you know, great connection. And we did discuss that probably we will work together once he's settled and all that over there. And I have no idea in what form or style that we'll do that. I'll have to wait till that time comes.
Beautiful stories. Thank you for sharing all of that. I am curious though about galactic connections. Like, we're assuming the Federation is galactic. Have they ever, you may have said this and I missed it, and I apologize if that's the case, but have they said who they are or what dimension they're coming from?
Yeah, you see, because it's very interesting because when people, which is fantastic, put my channelings up on different sites of that, and they often put Blossom Goodchild channeling the Galactic Federation of Light, and they're not the Galactic Federation of Light. They call themselves the Federation of Light. I've asked the difference, and they say the Galactic Federation of Light is a vast organization. As I go, so who are you? And they say, we are the overseers of the overseers. And that's all they'll say. And you have to, I guess, derive, well, what does that mean? So you oversee the people that oversee the Galactic Federation? I don't know. But that's all they'll give me. But they never call themselves the Galactic Federation. They say we are the Federation of Light.
Well, there's things that we want to know, and we want to have the definitions and have the labels. And yet, you know, I'm understanding things, concepts that I'm having to hold like in duality, you know, this is true and this is true, you know, and like, so it's making me realize that there's so many different levels, construction, organization that we can't even, like, even if they told you, does that mean you would even comprehend?
Does it matter? As you say, it's just a label. It's just a label. And White Cloud, you know, I'm not sure what date he last lived or what tribe he was in. I've messed it up in my head somewhere. So I just don't want to go there because I'm the one that's go, well, I don't, so I didn't get it through clearly. And so I don't like to ask because, you know, this, that, and the other. And as he says, it matters not, Blossom. When I was here, who I am. And it's the same thing with the Federation of Light. It doesn't matter who they are. What matters is what we get from what they choose to bring through. And if we can, you know, it is it. And either it resonates with you or it doesn't. You know, when people write and say the Federation are full of shit, you know, and all this kind of stuff, you know, and I'll write back and say, well, then why do you keep following them? You know, if you don't like them. Exactly.
I feel emboldened when I hear them, like when I hear the message, and then I will sit there different times of the week and I will do the mantra. And just, I feel like a force, like just this force, and I feel lit up inside. And it's like, how is any of that bad, wrong, false, negative, whatever? Like that's all good stuff.
Yeah, it is. And it either works for you or it doesn't. You know, that's the thing. And if you get a lot from it, then, because at times when I thought I can't do this anymore, just for all sorts of different reasons, and I think I just can't do it anymore. And then I think, but Blossom, think how much nothing to do with me, but how much they have changed people's lives because of reminding us who we are and what that love is. And how dare I think, I'm not going to do this anymore. You know, I'm a bit pissed off with this today. You know, how dare I do that when I have, you know, it's funny I'm saying this, right? When I have been blessed and chosen to be one of the people that bring these messages through from them, but at the same time only human. You know, they don't have to deal with all this shit down here.
Right.
No, they don't.
Yes.
Well, chosen. Do you feel that you were chosen, or do you feel like you stepped forward and agreed. I mean, I'm just,
I think, well,
maybe semantics, I don't know, but I just see time we step forward and say, yeah, I'm going to take this one on, but there's negotiating going on there.
I really don't know. Sometimes I think, am I part of the Federation of Light? Because sometimes before I tune in, sometimes I find myself up there, wherever there is, just in my imagination, not fully like, whoa, here I am, just see it there. And it's as if I'm in the center of a circle of these sort of columns of light, really. And like all this energy is coming to me, and then we become one sort of light energy. And I think, is that because they're just tuning into me because they're about to bring a message through and we're just tuning in? Or is that because I am part of that particular group? I don't know. To be honest, I don't care.
Right.
What difference does that make, really, down here when I've got to go to Aldi's and do my shopping? It doesn't, it's just, it doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter. So, I don't know.
It's so hilarious. We talk about that too, about he's an internationally known channel and he still has to do his own dishes.
Right. I got to cut my own grass.
What the heck? At what point do we not have to do that anymore?
Yeah, it's just
give it up,
no, and
like,
that's the thing. I don't want to give up that aspect of myself. I mean, being human. That's, and you expressed it brilliantly. It's, we came here for a reason. We chose this life, and we want to experience every morsel of this life every minute that we take a breath. And so if I or you or somebody else gets to a point at which they strip themselves of that reality that they chose to came here to be and be some other type of reality, well, then you're not living this.
You're not in it, are you? Yeah.
And they don't have roller coasters on the other side.
No. Twinkies or whatever else. All the fast food stuff, right?
Yeah. We just got to keep on keeping on, haven't we? Yes. Really.
Yeah.
So last question. You did sleep through the eclipse, and I haven't heard, I listened to your weekly channelings. Haven't heard anything really about the eclipse, I don't think. Mm-mm. Have you gotten any info on what was
No, because my lot said the week before last that they didn't. They said, all eclipses are special. They're markers, and they balance planets, and and all that kind of thing. But they didn't go into into anything like what everybody else has been saying is going to be going on and all this. And I woke up this morning, I thought, well, it's daylight. There's no 3 days of darkness. We can squash that one off. There was ridiculous things I heard about what was going to happen.
We were actually sitting in the backyard, and I asked her, I said, so what time is the peak of it? And it was supposed to be, for here, it was like 3:11 something.
Yeah.
So I looked at my clock. I said, well, it's 3:10.
So we sat through it.
Hey, right. And I said, well,
then we looked at each other.
Are we still here?
We are.
Did the planet? Yeah. Nope. The planet didn't blow up. I don't hear sirens.
I did see, because there was a live broadcast from NASA or something. You were doing this live thing. And I thought, if I wake up, because it was 3:00 in the morning for me, or going through to 4:40 or something. I thought, if I wake up and I at my computer, I'll have a look, but I didn't. And so when I woke up this morning, I had a look at that thing. And so I saw, pictures of what had happened and people going, ooh and ah, and all that kind of thing. And who knows, maybe there is a huge energy shift that took place, took place. That happened in 2012. And most of us didn't know that was going on either, instead of the planet blowing up or whatever. So it's like, who knows? But I am so... God, I am so, what's the word, nonchalant about whatever. Somebody said to me yesterday, I said, I wonder if we're going to 3 days of darkness. I said, well, next day we'll find out. And I doubt it very, very much. I'm so skeptical about all these things that come online about this is going to happen on such a date. And my whole thing is, well, let's just wait and see, shall we?
Right.
Because it never happens. And will it one day, whatever it is? I hope so. I really think we're all working so hard, to bring this planet into a happier place. Yes. And I do think we're going to get, and we are getting help. from elsewhere. But I do feel within me, I think that we are going to get much greater help from elsewhere energetically to change things and to help us, and then we can get really into gear, and get the whole thing really shifting, but I don't know when that will be.
Yeah.
Soon, we hope, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so not we want our soon, not their soon.
Right.
Ours,
Exactly. Our timeline. Exactly.
Absolutely.
The timeline
Absolutely.
that actually exists within this reality.
With us. I know. It's so frustrating. But then I just think now, everybody was the same. And I think we've all grown enough within ourselves and evolved enough to understand, just get on with your life. Just enjoy your life. That's how you're making the difference. And when anything is going to happen, we'll know. When it happens, we will know about it. So in the meantime, why keep waiting and think, oh, it's got to change. You change your attitude towards having a good life. And that will, and then when it happens, it'll happen.
It's the old adage, watching the pot boil, right? It's never going to boil.
Yeah.
Keep watching it.
Yeah. Watch kettle never boils. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a question for you that it came into my mind, and it's like, I can't let it go. So I'm glad I get to ask this. We ask you so many questions. We ask all our people so many questions. And what I would like to know is, what is the one thing that you would really like our audience or anyone watching this out there to know about Blossom Goodchild?
Right?
Totally.
God.
Yeah.
What would I like the audience to know about me?
Mm-hmm. Doesn't have to be spiritual.
No.
She likes pickleball now. I know that.
Ooh.
I'm a pickleball addict. I don't know how to answer that. Samantha, I don't know.
Well, so we always guide these conversations so much, and the direction they're going to go in. And I just kept getting this prodding of, there's so much time that you're presenting to everyone. Here are the questions. Here are the answers. Here we go. But what is the thing that is you that people may not know about you? Maybe you dance around the house, or you really like, reading certain emails or something, or whatever it is.
Well, on that scale of things, my absolute passion is performing, is theatre. That's if I was ever asked to do this work or theatre, don't ever ask me to choose, because I always say performing is my absolute passion, and this is my mission, is what I say, because my parents were in the theatre, and I've been in the theatre since I was 2, and I haven't done anything for 5 years now because of, different circumstances and COVID and, where I live and what have you. And that's why I created Gertrude Flutterbucket. And I don't know if you're aware of my, my alter ego, Gertrude Flutterbucket, because I needed something to do. But so to perform for me, that is what I say when I'm on stage. I wouldn't care if I never performed it to an audience, but just even being in rehearsals, working on things on my own, I am elsewhere. Time disappears, and it's that's when I feel so at home. That I guess that's what I'd say.
Well, maybe that's why the question,
maybe
a nudge to get out there.
And I keep saying, come on, because my thing was, it says it on my site that give me a show a year. That's all I need, a good professional show a year, and I will do this. But for 5 years, I'm like, no, come on, guys. This is taking the mickey a bit. I'm like, come on, where? But I know also because of Goodie's passing and COVID and all that, I just haven't been ready, to do something. But I feel I'm ready now. So I'm waiting for the perfect role to show up. And then I can do what I really enjoy doing. Yeah. I run a choir. I started doing a choir. Yeah, I started doing a choir because I was frustrated as well. So I run a choir for people who say they can't sing. And we have such a laugh. I don't charge anything. And we just do Simon and Garfunkel, Beatles, all sorts of stuff in harmony. I've been doing that for a year. And we have such a good laugh at that. So again, I think that is to do with what blows your blouse up. You know.
Yay, you said it. We love blossomisms. Blossomisms.
That is so
And that's the
wonderful.
one
They were just before you came on. They were just mentioning
doing
that.
blossomisms.
You're right.
And-
They were just
And
mentioning
Allison
that. Yeah.
said that. Yeah.
Blow your blouse up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, and you when you do that, then you are serving yourself and the whole, aren't you? You know, that's it really. Yeah, maybe that's what it was leading to.
That's beautiful. I can't think of a better note to end on with a bunch of laughter. Thank you so much for that. We are thrilled that you shared your time with us and with our audience.
Oh.
Thank you so very much. And all of your contact information will be at the bottom
Okay.
in the
Thank you all so much. I've had a really, it's like chatting with friends, isn't it? It's just, I've had such a good time.
Love
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you
Okay.
to our lovely audience for joining us today at Out on a Limb podcast. Hit that thumbs up and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and we will see you next time.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you.